So,
Good evening.
or good morning, or good afternoon,
Whatever time it is.
wherever you are.
I don't know what the time is. I'm Finn.
I'm Kit. Circumference.
Yeah.
We're going to be breaking down our track Breathe Out
Yeah.
from our EP on Soulvent. It came out a couple weeks ago.
Yep, it came out a couple of weeks ago from the time we're recording this.
Yep.
Ish.
Or last week. I know the title track was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So the title track is Breathe, but this track is Breathe Out, which is an orchestral rendition of that track. And we're going to break it down for you today.
Yeah. I think we'll start with the drums.
Yeah, start with the drums. So we got these taikos. Taikos are just a type of drum that's like used quite a lot in like
Film scores and orchestras and such.
Yeah, and they sound like this. Yep.
It was just from a sampler, wasn't it?
Yeah, from a free sampler called like S for Sander or something like that.
Yeah.
You'll find it. It's free. It's quite popular. And then this is just like a sampler instrument we downloaded for it, which is also free. So you can go have a look for it. Can't remember what it's called. We just lifted this from the original project of Breathe, so we've already processed it, and it's nothing to show you.
Yeah.
But we've got this other layer, which is like just something we recorded on our phone, our collective phone.
Our collective phone. We've got a phone each, and then one between us. It's like a circumference burner. Just goes to show, like, you don't need a professional mic to record.
Yeah.
It's good sounds. You could just process them well, even though this is reverb.
Yeah, reverb.
It's just like a low kick,
Yeah.
a wide acoustic kick, reverb, EQ, and Finn's subtle clipping.
Yeah, it's only subtle. Guys.
Yeah, but they just layer together.
They layer together well. This kind of fills out the low end pretty well. So it just sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the picture?
And then go a bit further down. Where are the claps?
The klebs.
The klebs.
Yeah, these are just some other things.
Yeah, they're just from the Bitwig sample library. I think we first tried using these in our track Ambivalence as like a theme for the drop, but it didn't really work. We just went a different direction, so now we're just reusing, really.
Yeah, another thing lifted from another one of our projects.
It's all recycled material.
But it sounds bad, but it is a good thing to do.
And it saves a lot of time as well.
It saves a lot of time.
I mean, it's yeah.
Helps create cohesion between your projects as well, having some sort of like sounds that you would call back to somewhat. But as you can see, we've just sort of chopped them up a bit.
Yeah, I think the placement's different as well from what we had in mind originally.
Yeah, and we've done some automation like with EQ and reverb, so it's like further away before the drop comes in, and then when it comes in, it's like super bright and up front, which just helps create impact.
We've got some perk fills.
Yeah,
it's just like a simple.
It's just more stuff from the Bitwig sample library, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Just some layers, but they sound cool.
So that's a bit more character, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more character.
Rather than just having silence.
Yeah. And then these are just from BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is a Spitfire plugin. This is actually free. If you go onto Spitfire, they have a questionnaire which you can fill out, and then you submit that, and they send you this 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, you'll get it.
2 weeks later, but that
I think mine was like a week. I think it came in.
I don't know. It said 2 week on the thing, but anyway, it's
up to 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's well worth getting.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic thing considering it's free. Yeah, these are just some drum hits. Very typical.
Do you play all the drums together? Just
Yeah, I mean, over here, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very typical orchestral hit. You'll hear in lots of symphony orchestra stuff, really. I mean, as you can see, we're clipping by 7 dB there.
But it doesn't matter.
They don't care. They don't care. But it's quite simple actually. There's very few things going on. Like literally like 6 things at once. But yeah, and they sound quite cohesive together, I think.
That covers the drums, really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's not really too much drums.
No bus processing on them either, 'cause they don't care.
Synths, just a polysynth.
Yeah, very Blade Runner-y synths.
The sound really comes from just the processing, really, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's
And the long reverb.
yeah, it's very Blade Runner-y. Yeah, because the original track was inspired by Dune, the new Dune soundtrack. So that's the sort of sound you hear in that, I suppose. That or like Blade Runner 2049 or something, you know. It's that sort of
just big,
palette.
kind of detuned, spacey synths.
Yeah, there's so much processing on it. So if I show you without the processing on quickly, it will sound like this.
Sad.
It's an embarrassing ejaculation. With it. Huge. Yeah, and these are just the same. I think just processed slightly differently, just depending on sort of how they fit in terms of stage of the arrangement, really. Yeah, we've got some effects.
Again, yeah, effects were just dragged over from Breathe, the original.
Just
vocal bounces, noises.
These are literally just like bouncing out the reverb tails of the vocals and then just using them as transitional elements, really, and atmospheres. Sounds like this, really. You get the picture. Yeah. In fact, most of this stuff here is just resampled from
the original project.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. Good habit to get into, because it's helps create a lot of cohesion in the project using just transitional elements alone, really. But like the fact that they've come from the sound palette of the track already, it makes it a lot more cohesive, I think. And it's a good workflow thing to get into as well.
Just make your own sample library.
Yeah, if you've got stuff to work with like already, it just makes life so much quicker. Yeah, so I guess next thing to go on to would be the strings and the orchestra generally.
So we've got slash layer, duduk layer, violins, several violin layers.
Yeah, lots of violins.
Cellos. Violas,
cello, basses.
Yeah.
Brass. Yeah, so we'll have a look at that in a second. So Celeste is just a very typical
orchestral percussion element.
Yeah. Ding. Everybody's heard that before. Something that maybe people haven't heard as much as a duduk.
Middle Eastern woodwind, really.
Yeah, an Armenian duduk. Yep. We've used this on Ambivalence as well. This is a very noticeable thing. I'm Warm.
I'm Warm as well, the outro.
You've heard the outro. It's probably the best bit of the track, I think.
Always the best bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some strange processing.
Yeah, we added some RC20 just for like some sort of lo-fi textures and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very good thing to use for that. It's the noise adds a lot of air to it, I think. Although it is already very airy, so it's like woodwind. So,
got a couple of effects layers as well.
Yeah.
So basically, we're too skint to afford our monthly subscription of kilohertz, so we just made our own.
Yeah, made our own Haas effect.
Yep.
It's easy. It's just delaying left and right, so that you get like this
wider
thing going
much
on.
wider.
Yep.
Yeah. Then there's a
reverb
layer, EQ, clipping it for some reason. Don't ask why.
Don't ask why.
We just have.
We just do it impulsively at this point, I think.
Yeah, we've just got the same layer basically, but just split up for a different section.
Yeah, but we'll move on. We've got the strings. So we've got these are the main part of the track, I think. Really, they're kind
of what drives it the most.
Yeah, at least in this version, it's like meant to be very string centered, so it's got lots and lots of strings, all like, but it all kind of makes up one chord if you think about it, because if you look at these, you know, these are all single melodic lines, and we do this because in Contact, which is one of the samplers we use, there's legatos, which is basically allows you to smoothly transition between two notes, so it's got like a natural bend.
And also the expression as well. You can change the expression for each one.
Yeah,
makes it sound a lot more realistic rather than just programmed robot music.
But but the thing about the legato is, if you try to play a chord, it's not going to work, because, you know, it's anything with like a portamento slide or anything, you know, chords don't work, so it has to go between one note and another, so it confuses the computer if you have a chord. So the best thing to do here is to separate each of the melodic lines out into different channels, which will allow you to have every note slide as it wants. Yeah, which helps for like making it sound more real, I think.
Yeah.
As Kit was saying, got the expression as well. This is just essentially scrolling through different dynamic layers. So these are sampler instruments, and this is going through different samples, which at the bottom will be like the quietest and the sort of most dark timbre. Then at the top it's like the loudest and brightest timbre, and just doing that allows you to get these swells, basically, that sound like how a real string player would play a stringed instrument. Yeah, we've also been layering up the string instruments as well. So we've got two different ones. We've got a Contact library
and the free one again,
yeah,
BBC.
And yeah, the reason we do this is they sort of complete each other. Like the Contact one is very bright but not very roomy. BBC Symphony Orchestra, it's not very bright.
It's quite the opposite, isn't it?
It's basically the opposite, yeah.
It's quite roomy, yeah.
So if you think about it, it's like, this is like a room mic, this BBC Symphony Orchestra.
But just with slightly different texture.
Yeah, then Contact is up front and is like the core of the sound, I think. And that helps as well. It makes it sound more realistic, because they sort of cover up each other's mistake a bit as well, I think. Which is nice. Yeah, what else can you say about it, really? It's just going through all the different types of stringed instrument you get in a symphony orchestra, you know, violin, viola, cello, bass, and that's what it's doing.
Bottom line.
Yeah, bottom line. We've also got a bunch of brass as well. This is quite interesting, because in the BBC Symphony Orchestra, the brass is
shit.
It's not shit, but it's a bit. It limits the mics you can use in it, because it's the Discover version. So you get the really roomy, dull sounding brass in this version. So if you listen to it with the processing, well, actually, let's do it without the processing.
Yeah, do without first. You can hear how
it's going to sound weak,
cringe, and upsetting it sounds.
I mean, it sounds alright, but it's like there's no air to it, you know. And there's no intensity. It's very kind of
dull.
Yeah, it would work better as like sort of bedding in it, I think.
Yeah, but it's more of a standout point. So what we wanted to do is just blow it up, but not blow it up completely.
Yeah. So what we have here is just some quite drastic EQ, and this is really bringing out all of the key frequencies in brass, basically, the really kind of bitey, harsh stuff, and it makes it sound like this.
It's a lot more in your face, really.
Yeah, you have to be a bit careful when doing this though, because the original samples are so dull. It's like, when I say dull, I don't mean bad. I just mean like frequency dull. They bring up a lot of noise floor if you cue it that drastically, and some aliasing, annoyingly, I found. So you have to be a bit careful with that, but it does the job. It kind of makes it sound more bitey when you do this. As you can see, it's really not like subtle at all.
No.
So go to town on it. Just don't hurt your ears, but go to town on it. We've done a fair amount of compression as well, and some more interesting EQing. I think we use this one because it's like more characteristic.
Quite a warm EQ as well. All the EQs on the virtual mix rack are quite good.
Yeah, and it's got like a nice bite to it when you boost around like 3K or something. So it kind of helps to make the brass sound, I think, more real because it's a more musical sounding EQ, really.
The bloody high shelves.
Yeah.
Turn again.
There's a lot of low shelving as well, actually. We took quite a bit out because it's a full orchestra. You don't want the lows of the brass to be like conflicting with the low strings, and the low strings are generally richer than the low brass in this case. So basically we just took out lots of the low end. So it's just like rich, like in your face high end basically. And in context it sounds pretty good like that, I think. Like
also, yeah, the shorts as well.
Yeah, and there's
just add like that staccato, just instant.
Yeah, it helps to make it sound more natural because like it's like somebody's like blowing into the instrument, and then it's like as it would anyway. So you get like the impact of someone blowing into it, then So it's just like movement and impact. That's what it adds. Then the other thing making it better is the noise thing here as well, which is really subtle. Like it's just noise, but if you took that out, like here, there'd be so much less impact because it just creates like a nice wash in the high end and really sort of fills out the high end for the brass, I think. There's nothing there really without it. Nothing there.
Nothing.
With it, I think this is a thing you can hear a lot in Hans Zimmer's Interstellar soundtrack, actually. Like a lot of noise.
Noise-led brass.
Yeah.
Brass-led noise. One of
one of the two. But yeah, just fills it out, makes it more washy, more impactful. Yeah. Basses.
There's not a lot going on in the bass. Just
there's a Reese.
A Reese bass.
It sounds like this.
A crunchy layer. Yep, it sounds like that. Yeah.
Which may sound big and wild, but is not that crazy really. It's just saw waves detuned with like distortion and filtering, and it's just sort of like a continuous cycle of distorting, filtering in different ways to sort of shape the tone of it.
So the bass wasn't really the main standout point for this track, really. No. Like we tried going a bit wild with some like ideas for basses, but realised it just got quite unpleasant and messy. It took the focus away from the actual like orchestra as well. Yeah,
that is the thing. Like if you you want to set up a theme and you want to roll with it, you don't want to be like adding all these
crazy elements that just get way too like convoluted with shit.
Yeah, it makes it quite hard to like pay attention to what's like really meant to stand out in the track. So you want to just like get your theme and make that really the thing, and not like mess it up really, not add anything else into the mix that's going to confuse it. You got like reverse reverbs, nothing interesting. It's just adding more movement and like dimension to it, really. Like it sounds like this. I mean, you can barely even hear that, right? Like,
yeah, it's just a little introduction, like for the bass.
It's like. Yeah, it's missing a tape stop because of the kilohertz thing.
Yeah,
I'm afraid. But yeah. Then we got the main bass, but that's like pretty basic.
It's just sine waves. And the noise layer.
Yep, that's vital noise. You can like map the LFO to sort of go at the same speed as the note you press,
which matches like the frequency.
Which is good for cohesion between the noise and the bass. So you can just put the LFO on the volume of the noise, and it's sort of like a ring mod thing, but it's a bit more
key mapped.
Yeah.
Key tracked.
Key tracked. It's a bit more precise. Yeah. What else we got? Oh, there's a little tempo change actually.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It goes down to 140, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes from 172 to 140. I won't play it because it sort of completely. My computer doesn't like it at all.
Go on, play it.
It's not going to work. But as you can see, like we've gone. In fact, it goes down to 91.
Then to yeah.
Then it goes to 140. So this like try and play it. Yeah. So it kind of worked. I mean,
Wasn't too glitchy.
Wasn't too glitchy. That was all right. Computer handled it there, but you can sort of hear like the last few notes are like really slow. It sort of gets slower, kind of towards that point, which creates like this suspense, and then it goes into the 140 section, which kind of feels like the track's winding down because it's like not as fast.
To the best section of the track.
Yeah, to the best section I think, which is the most real sounding I think. Yeah, the outro. Yeah.
I think that just about covers everything. There's not like there's nothing really crazy going on in this track. It's all just composition wise. Like
yeah,
that was probably the main challenge for it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's something we said in the SWU interview we gave the other day, where it's like there's no like crazy tips or anything. It's just composing it in such a way that it will like enhance the sounds that you have. The sounds aren't necessarily important. It's just using them in the right context. So you can have the most simple shit sounds, and they can sound great. Weirdly,
it's all about context.
It's all about context. Yeah. Last thing is the master channel. There's nothing interesting on it at all.
Just clipping,
hard clipping, and a tiny bit of limiting after, just to sort of give it a slight boost. But there's no like EQ or anything. We're just getting it good in the mix down, then slightly boosting it in the master. But that's it. Like it's the most transparent master you'll probably ever get. So yeah.
Well,
I think that's just about it. I think that wraps it up.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye.